Hi, my name is Celeste Camperwalla, and I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, an Everytown Survivor Fellow, wearing my We Can End Gun Violence shirt in honor of National Gun Violence Survivors Week. I debated for a long time what I wanted to talk about today, what further message I could possibly convey, and I settled on the word hope. Now, I realize that this word has been used a lot lately. President Barack Obama ran on it in his first campaign. But there's a particular reason why I chose this word, and that is that it gets me by every single day as a survivor of gun violence. I joined Moms Demand Action because I was fed up. The headlines and mass shootings had me scared for my safety and the safety of my children. So my husband challenged me to join Everytown for Gun Safety, which led me to my first Moms Demand Action meeting in February of 2016. We wrote care cards for the survivors of the Uber driver shooting in Kalamazoo. I found myself sitting across from Kristen Moore, our Michigan chapter founding leader, telling her that my dad, Scott Smith, had taken his life with his shotgun not even 2 years prior. I was shocked when she proclaimed that I am a survivor of gun violence. Who, me? I went home with the label survivor, trying to process it, trying to understand it. At the time, I had no idea how ubiquitous and pervasive gun violence is. I merely wanted to avoid my children getting murdered in school, in a movie theater, or while grocery shopping with me. But within months of joining Moms Demand Action, I learned that gun violence affects 58% of the population, that the Black community, the Native American community, the LGBTQ community, of which I am a proud part of, and other minority communities are disproportionately affected by gun violence, multiple times more so than the white community. That domestic violence and suicide is really a pandemic that is often hushed by the media. Over a year after joining Moms Demand Action, I was asked to speak at an event. I said no, using the excuse that I could not publicly speak, but also because I just wasn't ready yet to tell my story. But that fall, something shifted in me. Something changed internally. I knew that it was my time to speak, to use my voice, and to tell my story. Over the holidays, I applied for the Everytown Survivor Fellowship Program. I found out I was accepted the following February, right before the Parkland shooting. How quickly I learned to find my voice and tell my story as I helped a local high schooler plan the March for Our Lives event in Ann Arbor. I found myself terrified speaking on stage in front of 5,000 people. However, I got through it with clarity and conviction. I ended my speech with my mantra that I later used to start writing my book, Bold Brave Goddess, From Insecure Victim to Confident Survivor. Talking with many other survivors throughout the years, I began to realize that my story is much more intricate and layered than I had originally thought. You see, my dad was abusive to me before he took his life with his gun. He used a pistol to play Russian roulette on himself while my poor mother watched and I slept in the next room. He mentally and emotionally abused and manipulated me throughout my whole life up until his death. How can I forgive such a man, you might ask? How can I honor him and speak his name after he put me through such hell and such trauma, causing me PTSD and lifelong therapy? The answer is simple. He was my dad. He suffered from abuse and childhood traumas himself, and above all else, I knew that he loved me despite it all. His last email to me was on my birthday, the day before he killed himself, in which he said, "I love you, Celeste Lynn. Always have, always will." I still have the email and sometimes reflect on it with tears in my eyes. Even now, I have a hard time processing my emotions years later. Grief is not linear. It comes in waves, and especially when your story has so many facets, it's so nuanced, you never know when the emotion next will hit or what it will even be. These things that we keep hidden, shoved down deep to escape, they only continue to haunt us until we acknowledge them. The past continues to haunt me, but only on days when I let it. I have recently begun telling myself to stop focusing on the problem and instead focus on the solution. I believe that if we can do this as an organization and as a nation, that we can move in the right direction. What gives me hope today is people like my friend Brenda Moss telling the story of her son Sean, who was shot 17 times, stolen from her by gun violence. Brenda, a mother advocating to honor her son, letting others know that together we can end gun violence. Senator Chris Murphy gives me hope. In his new book, The Violence Inside Us, he highlights infrequently talked about forms of gun violence, such as city gun violence, gun suicides, and domestic violence. My friend Gwen Lacroix, whose son Jonah was only 17 when he took his life with her ex's gun, a gun which he had lied about locking up. And so now Gwen tells her story as a survivor fellow to advocate for safe gun storage. My friend Richard Martinez, whose son Chris was murdered in Isla Vista, California, 2014, the same year that my dad took his life. Rich coined the phrase, "not one more," and he works tirelessly every single day for gun sense in our country. My Congresswoman, Debbie Dingell, gives me hope as she works to put into law the Violence Against Women Act. Like me, she is a survivor of domestic abuse by her dad with a gun. So many heroes and heroines inspire me and give me hope. So while hope cannot bring back my dad or any of our loved ones stolen by gun violence, or erase the pain and the PTSD I still experience as a survivor, it can provide a solid step for the future. By focusing on hope, I can work through my inner demons and my grief. I can provide support for others. I can be my fullest, bold, brave goddess self. After all, my mantra is be bold, be brave, because if you don't do something, who will? Thank you.